Brian rang up on the Sunday night and said, "What are you doing tomorrow night?" I said, "Nothing." So bring your boots and your gloves. There's a game. And we'd never given it a thought. So I ended up playing the second half of that in front of 21,500 people in the baseball ground, which was an experience. There are times when you think, well, what would he have done? What would he have done? How would he have done that? You know, and I think when you go back to a young goalkeeper not doing it, you go, well, this was good enough for Peter Shilton.
Beardsley! Corner! Great stop by Steve Sutton. Wonderful save.
Peter Taylor came to watch me play in a county game at Chesterfield, and I actually ended up playing centre half. John Lukic was the older goalkeeper in that group, so he played in goal. We were short centre half, so I played centre half in the game. And he must have seen something, certainly not goalkeeping because he didn't go in goal, but so certainly he saw something, and they invited me across for a trial. And I ended up breaking my toe the night before playing in the school playground, and at 15 and a half I was due to play in Forest Reserves on a Tuesday afternoon, but I broke my toe, so I didn't play. And it sort of evolved from there really. The Brian Clough factor took over. He came to our house and he took us out for a meal, and my dad, being a Derby fan, had known him at Derby, and he was very charming. And I think probably it was April 1977 I signed my contract just before my 16th birthday, and came in the July. And the first game I played for Forest actually was Kevin Hector's testimonial, which was towards the end of the season. Brian rang up on the Sunday night and said, "What are you doing tomorrow night?" I said, "Nothing." So bring your boots and your gloves. There's a game. And we'd never given it a thought. So I ended up playing the second half of that in front of 21,500 people in the baseball ground, which was an experience, with all Derby's strongest team out and Forest's strongest team out, and it was a great experience. And that was it. I was hooked with Forest, and I've sort of been here ever since, really. Well, it was all quite scary really, because it was totally unexpected, yet it was totally the norm, because we hadn't expected anything, you know, hadn't experienced anything else. So the first season I was here, we won the league, which would be the Premier League now, and the next year they were in Europe as champions and they won the European Cup. So we had a couple of trips abroad. We went to the final, and then the following year they did it again. And you sort of think, well, this is just the norm. You know, what a great experience this is. And the third year, I was actually in the squad. So at 19, I was in the Champions League squad, as it was, and they got knocked out in the first round against Sofia, which was a bit disappointing. But again, it was a great experience to be around those nights that were here. The European Cup nights were special nights at the City Ground, and particularly the Liverpool game here, where I remember sitting on the track around the edge of everybody. There was, I don't know, 40,000 euros or something, a ridiculous amount, and people were sat on the track and stood everywhere because it was still standing. It was absolutely rammed, and those atmospheres were fantastic at that time, particularly for a young kid coming through. He was very, very focused, and you took from him his work ethic. You took from him the attention to detail he took about making up positions, making decisions, and all the kinds of goalkeeping things that you read in books. Then you got it from Peter. He wasn't one to share it with you, particularly. You had to take it As I say, he came in and he did his work, and he worked like a Trojan. That was something that really impressed me, was the amount of work that he did on his own, away from the group. And I was part of a lot of that, helping him, serving and making sure that he did what he needed to do. And you know, week in, week out, he was absolutely magnificent. And with him and Ray Clements, you know, were the best two goalkeepers in the world at that time, I feel. And I got the chance to work with one every day, and it was a tremendous grounding for me. It made it hard work to get in the side, mind, but no, it was really good, and I did feel, looking back now, as a coach, that a lot of stuff I do now is a lot of stuff that Peter did, and working on the fact that, you know, if it was good enough for him with the way he kept goal, then some of that will rub off on the younger goalkeepers of today as well. So. Peter had been away for a couple of days and ended up getting the flu. I think he had the flu. So I travelled down, because in those days there was only one sub or two subs. Goalkeepers weren't on the bench, they didn't travel with a spare goalkeeper. So I travelled down to Norwich on the Friday, expecting Peter to turn up on the Saturday morning. It was very hush-hush that he was not going to play. And basically, I think Brian had trouble with his heart, so he wasn't at the game. Peter Taylor was at the game. And it was just one of those, at 1:45, the team sheet went up in the dressing room and I was playing, so didn't really have time to get too nervous. Decided that this is what I wanted, this is where I wanted to be, and looked forward to it immensely, and played okay in the game. Played okay, didn't have a lot to do, but thoroughly enjoyed it, being in front of the crowd and being in with, there were still a lot of senior players in that squad, and it was good. Disappointed that we didn't get a win out of it, but as a debut I was really pleased. We went to Spain for a pre-season trip and a tournament, and I had a game to forget, a first half to forget, against Cologne, I think it was, and we were 3-0 down at half time, and two of the goals were definitely mine, third could have been, and the gaffer gave me a bit of a roasting at half time, which was fully justified. And I think that sort of settled the mind that they definitely needed somebody to come in. I wasn't ready to step up. But I ended up playing the first 3 games of the league, and they got Van Breukelen after that, and I played really well in those games, and I was a bit disappointed to be dropped. And talking to Hans afterwards, he was saying, I don't know why they dropped you, because you were playing so well, and I wondered why they needed me. But he developed into a really nice goalkeeper across here as well, and had he stayed, I think he would have been one of the best goalkeepers that we had, apart from Peter. But that's how it is, you know. You need to have it, particularly in a goalkeeping position, experience and people that can handle all situations, and they obviously didn't feel at that time I was ready to do that, which is fair enough. Hans is a lovely bloke. Never really felt threatened with Hans. I always felt I was a better goalkeeper than him. Whether I was or whether I wasn't, you know, is debatable. I always felt I was, and I always felt that I could get back into the side. And unfortunately, I had a nasty knee injury which gave him 3 months playing. And unfortunately for him, I think he might have broken his leg or something. He had a nasty injury, and I got back in for 3 months. And really, then I sort of kept the place.
Well, audaciously done by Gascoigne. Great save by Sutton from Lineker. A brilliant save by Sutton, to the delight of the City fans, and
Sutton the hero of the moment for Forest, as Marwood strikes it very firmly.
It's just good pressure. Harford appeals for handball, waved aside. Oh, Sutton made a very good save, and again.
Well, it's just something you do. You don't sort of think about, you know, what good players these are till you don't play behind them, or you move on, or you look back now. Unfortunately, looking on YouTube now, there's so many more clips than there used to be of those times. There was absolutely nothing on even 5 years ago. And just looking around now, there are so many more bits and bobs of videos that are being made available to look back at, and you realise actually what a good team we were. You know, we played some cracking football. We could defend for our lives at times. It wasn't all great stuff. There was some dour defending done as well. But when you think about that team, we had Stewart, we had Neil Webb, we had Des Walker away with England, all three away with England. Tommy Gaynor away with Ireland. You know, Lee Chapman came in. Steve Chettle was with the under-21s. Steve Hodge was with the international squads. You know, we had a lot of very, very good players about in those days, and it all came together. And there was a great atmosphere in here as well. This was where it all, because we used to get changed in here to go training down at Trent Pool. So the banter in here was phenomenal. Most of it led by Ian Bowyer and Nigel Jensen. They would get together and have that banter, and Stuart would drop in with it. And you sort of kept your head down and hope they didn't have a go at you in here, because it could be torrid at times. But no, it was a great time, and when we all get back together now, it's as if you've never been away. You know, we get little get-togethers and meetings up and things, and the banter starts straight away, and it was a special time, I think, away from the European group, which they have their own special time. For us, as the younger players, that was our special time, 87 to 91.
You must have a most memorable or favourite save for us.
Two really. One was at Spurs. They're both triple saves actually. One was at Spurs from Chris Waddle. We're making a low save, getting up, making a second save, and then making a third save from a little header who tried to put it over me. I remember that. And lots of people come up to me and say, I remember that save against Everton at Wembley in the Simod Cup final, where I tipped it onto the bar and then made the save under the goalposts at 3-3, and we went on to win 4-3, which was important. So they're probably the two. There are lots of saves that were made, but they would be the two of my favourite saves. We had some great games going down to get there, and yeah, the actual days were tremendous. They went so quickly, and nothing too much was made of them. You know, we were very, very low key. The manager had it like that, Brian had it like that things were kept low key. Yeah, we're going to Wembley. We have suits now. We just sort of went in our blazers that we went to all the games in. We went to track suits. You know, we went overnight. I think some of the teams have been down in London 2 or 3 days. We just went down on the night before, stayed over as if it was just another game. And they were special days. The old Wembley was excellent. You know, it was the place to play. It was still a special place. They hadn't started playing semi-finals on there and quarter-finals and playoff games and all that sort of stuff. They were still played elsewhere. So to actually go to Wembley was a special day out. I think we went down 3 or 4 times with various bits and bobs over that time span. And yeah, it was great for us and great for the supporters to have that little bit of glory. Yeah. I was out of contract. Mark got his chance. I think he played against Liverpool here. I had food poisoning and I missed 2 games. He came in and and played well. And I think I played 3 or 4 games, then was dropped, and he played 5 or 6 games. He brought me back for the League Cup final, and then I was dropped for the Manchester United game here on the Tuesday night after the Sunday game at Wembley. They dropped me here, and then I think I played in the last match of the season, which was Sheffield Wednesday away. We won 3-0. It sent Sheffield Wednesday down, but that was my last league game, and it's always sort of hurt me that it was 199. I would like to have had 200 league games. That would have been nice, but I was out of contract. What they were offering was not what I thought was acceptable, so we sort of hung on, and I was here till just after Christmas on no contract. Mark came into the side, did really well, and then all of a sudden I signed a contract. It got to being very, very silly. We're talking about silly numbers and stuff, and all of a sudden it happened. And then within 3 weeks, they sold me to Derby. I left the football club, never said goodbye to anybody. So Arthur Cox rang me on a Monday afternoon and said, "Would you like to come over and talk?" I said, "Yes," I had permission from Brian. I came back Tuesday morning, I went across and talked with them, came back Tuesday morning, picked my boots up. Nobody was in, didn't see anybody. Never said ta-ra, goodbye or anything to anybody, just walked away, and that was it. It was 10 years before I came back. So it's a bit sad after 14 years, but that's the way it goes. I came back into the academy, and it was when Billy Davis was here first time that he brought me in full time to work along with Pete Williams. So I've been here ever since. Nick Marshall, the then academy manager, came and said, "Look, we've got this kid been released from Aston Villa, have a look." And I went back to him after 10 minutes saying, "Yeah, take him." Didn't need any more than that, I'd seen enough. But there were lots of doubts. At 18 when he was playing, he wasn't consistent. We don't think he's going to make it. I said, "Just stick with him because I think he'll be okay. And all of a sudden at 20, 21 he's grown into himself, he's grown into a man, and I thought he was excellent for us. The couple of seasons that he played here, I thought he did really, really well, and it was credit to everybody in the academy, that it's not just the goalkeeping coach, it's all the other staff as well that back these kids up and keep them going and keep them on the straight and narrow and give them the best chance, the sports scientists, the fitness coaches, that give these young players the best opportunity to make the most of what they've got. And if a coach can come along and just tickle the side that, the technical side, if they've got the other side, the physical and the mental side as well, then they stand a half a chance, and that's what you aim for.
In Dimitar Evtimov, I believe you spotted him playing in a reserve game at the training ground.
Yeah, they came down. He came down with Stoichkov Academy and played a game, and there was him and another one. And he had something special about him. A great spring, brave. In fact, I think he ended up getting concussed in the game. So we invited him back, and again he did well. And I spoke with Nick, and he said, "Yeah, I think we'll take a chance with him." And I said, "Fine, that'll be great." And he's been super to work with. It's really the only job I've ever wanted. Having started here. I thought it was really nice to work here as the first team goalkeeping coach. I'll probably finish here. This will probably be my last job, and it's been fun all the way. I thoroughly enjoyed working with Dougie and the first team squad. And things haven't gone as well as we would have liked, but circumstances sometimes have taken that away from what we were trying to do. But on a personal note with Doris, I think we've got him to be the best goalkeeper that he can be this year. I think he's been splendid and very consistent, and that's down to his hard work. And again, as I've already just mentioned, you try and tickle these players into being a little bit better than they are. You can't force a 35-year-old to do something he doesn't want to do. because they are their own men. But he's wanted to do what we've gone. He's gone along with what I've tried to do, and I think it's paid dividends for him. He looks lean, he looks fit, he looks absolutely full of beans. Every training session he's our best goalkeeper, and I think from your first choice man between the sticks, that's all you can ask for, that every day he turns out and he performs.
And you really do have a great set of lads, haven't you, with Dimmy and Doris? You seem to have such fun in your training sessions.
Yeah, we've got that. We've got young Jordan Smith as well, who's been out on loan at Nottingham all season, doing really, really well, and he'll probably come back into the fold next year. As a unit, the goalkeeping side at the football club, I think, is working really, really well.
How much inspiration do you think, even to this day, you take from people like Peter Shilton and Brian Clough in their style of working on the training pitch?
I think you take a lot, and I do think you do look back. There are times when you think, well, what would he have done? What would he have done? How would he have done that? You know, and I think when you go back to a young goalkeeper not doing it, you go, well, this was good enough for Peter Shilton. Cloughie wouldn't have let you get away with that. You know, you've got that experience, Arthur Cox and you know, Trevor Francis that you all worked for, and you worked under David O'Leary and George Graham. You pull little bits of experience from everything into your whole package. So although you're Steve Sutton with a hint of Peter Shilton and a hint of, big hint probably of Brian Clough, because he had such an influence on everybody that was at the football club, not just the players. The whole football club was under such a spell. You know, I started here, that they gave me my chance in football. I played my best football here. I feel I've had a nice input into the academy when I was there for 10 years, and I feel I've had an input into our first team. You know, and all of it's been positive. And it becomes a way of life. You know, this does get into your blood. It is my football club. It will always be my football. It will always be the first club that I look for on the fixtures, on the results. This is a great football club, and people need to remember where it's come from and where it needs to go. And it's a massive job to get this club back into the Premier League and get it to keep it there, more importantly. But it's possible. For 150 years, this football club's been part of this city, and it's been a big part in people's lives. Lots of average stuff in that 150 years, but lots and lots of great stuff that's in living memory. And I think that's always nice for a football club, that glory days are still within living memory. And it would be nice to give the younger end of the supporters, the 30s down, something to be really proud of, and give them something to cling on to for the next 20 years. And I think that's where we need to be. And you know, it'll be 151 years next year. Everybody will have forgotten an anniversary, but it will be a great time for it all to come together and have a little bit of luck and get the right players, the right manager, the right staff in, and this football club goes forward and it takes it out. And that would be the best remembrance for the anniversary for me, that it could be, that we're actually going forward and not just sitting on our laurels thinking, well, 150 years has been great, hasn't it? Let's go, right, that's done. Let's give these young kids, their young supporters, something to remember. Let's give them something to shout about, and something for them to tell their grandkids, wow, we used to watch a really great side. That would be that would make me the happiest that they could do that.